Alright, welcome to the episode of Singapore Real Estate Explained, where we break down real estate investment to you in the simplest way possible. So my name is Christian, and today I'll run through with you this new launch checklist, which you have to know before you buy your first new launch. Okay, these are some of the things that people may not know. There's little known facts that if you're not careful, you may end up having some troubles in processing a loan or finding a proper timeline for yourself. Right? And at the end of this video, okay, I'll be asking a question, and if you answer it correctly, we're giving away a new freebie. Okay, and it's similar as our Wharton Estate condo video, which we launched in the previous weeks. And this particular new launch calculator will be given out again only for the top 5 people who answered this question correctly. Okay, so without much further ado, let's go into this. So first up, let's take a look at one of the key facts we have to know about new launches purchase is your timeline scenarios. So there are some simple timeline. We'll run through basic ones, and I'll run through some complicated ones which you have to take note if you want to buy into a new launch. Alright, so the first one is direct purchase. I think most new launch buyers should know about this already, but let's run through quickly and some of the key things to take note. First is when you buy a new launch, okay, for example, a $2.1 million new launch, okay, the first thing you have to pay is a 5%. Okay, it's like basically an option fee. Okay, so it's 105K. So for this option to purchase, for example, you bought on the 8th of July 2023. Okay, you pay and then they issue this option to purchase. Okay, subsequently, okay, what happened is within 2 weeks, okay, the developer will send this thing called a sales and purchase agreement to your law firm. Okay, and in some cases, okay, usually we tell them to send 2 weeks later. In some cases, they may send within 1 week or 1.5 weeks, okay, which will affect the later timeline, which I'll explain why later on. And your S&P will reach your law firm. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to do and process the document by the third step, which is exercising. Okay, so what exercise means? It just means to confirm a purchase and sign on the dotted line. Okay, take note, your payment don't have to make yet. Okay, but usually if you want to pay, you can. Okay, but your date of the payment can be backdated, can be dated later. Okay, which I'll run through the last step. But take note, your signature, your signing of document must be done within 3 weeks from receiving your S&P. So why is it important? Okay, because, okay, in this case, if this S&P is delivered earlier, okay, 1 week, your S&P exercise must also be signed earlier. Okay, because it must be 3 weeks from receiving S&P. So that's why most developer or most cases, we actually advise our clients to have more time. So we tell them to write on your option purchase, which is very important, that to deliver your S&P 2 weeks from the date where OTP is issued. Okay. And in any case, any point of time, if you were to forfeit the purchase, okay, take note, not all your 5% will be forfeited. Basically, only 25% of this 5%, okay, will be forfeited, and the remaining amount will return back to you. Okay, and this comes in the last and most important final step, which is your payment. Okay, so when you exercise S&P, you sign a document. Okay, besides that, you have to make your payment. But take note, your payment of the remaining down payment, okay, which is your completion, okay, is usually 15% of the purchase price. Okay, which is 315K for a 2.1 million property. You also have to pay your buyer's stamp duty, which is your taxes for purchasing, which is 74,600. Okay, so take note, you can use CPF and cash to pay. But for your first 5%, everything must be in cash. And if with this, your buyer's stamp duty deadline will be 2 weeks away from your exercise date. Okay, very important, 2 weeks away from exercise date. But your completion deadline is actually 8 weeks away from your OTP date. Okay, so all these things are done nicely. So take note, a lot of people have this misconception when on the day when they exercise the document, they pay everything. It's not true, because they can actually date their payment for the 15% and the buyer's stamp duty later on. Okay, so once again, buyer's stamp is 2 weeks away from exercising, and your completion, this 15% payment is paid 8 weeks from your OTP. Alright, so this is short and sharp, a normal purchase deadline, okay, for your new launch. Okay, but things become a little complicated, okay, away from your direct purchase, where total amount used for this 2.1 million content is around 500K. Okay, the complication comes in when there are cases where you have to sell and buy. Okay, so if you're a first-time buyer, you can just focus on the first scenario. If you are selling and buying, there are some very important key elements you must take note, okay, when you sell and buy. So the first thing, okay, about selling, which you can see at the top of this particular diagram, is your exercise date of your condo, which is when you're selling. There's a same thing, option, exercise for your buyer to confirm the purchase. Okay, this exercise date must be planned before your exercise date, okay, when you sign on the new launch, or else there will be this thing called ABSC, additional buyer stamp duty. Okay, so some people may end up buying before selling. Then there is a crunch time. You have to exercise. Okay, take note, not optional. You have to exercise your selling before you exercise your new launch to avoid ABSD. And another fun fact to take note about this thing called completion date. Okay, the best case scenario is when you have your completion date before your completion date of your new launch. Okay, but usually it's very tough because think about it, new launch, the start to the end is 8 weeks. But usually for a scenario of a new launch for a sale or condo, it takes more than 14 weeks. Okay, so your completion date of the sale will definitely be after the new launch. So the question is, hey, I need my money from the sale to buy the new launch. What should I do then? Okay, because the money only comes in from the sale, okay, later when maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, okay, after your new launch is completed, where you need the money. Okay, so that's when this very important key thing that we hope to share with our clients out there is this thing called bridging loan, which is very, very important because you can actually borrow from a bank and say, hey, I need wait for my completion money to come in. I want to do a bridging loan so that I can get some money, pay the down payment for my new launch first before my cash come out from my completion. Okay, from this property that I'm selling. Okay, so the interest rate for new launch is for this bridging loan is usually about 6% per annum. So there's a calculation over here where you take the 6%, multiply by the amount you had to pay. Okay, multiply by the number of days where you are lacking between your completion date of your new launch and the completion date of the sale. Okay, divided by 365 days. This will give you the interest you have to pay on the bridging loan. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, however, there's a scenario 2B, another alternative which many people may not know, okay, which is very important. It's this thing called the option to purchase extension. Okay, granted by controller housing. Because government, they are quite kind souls. They know that, hey, the completion of your sale, the money coming, will be later than that of your new launch. So they allow you to have a 12 weeks extension, okay, or even up to 15 weeks extension from your OTP to your exercise to your completion date, so that you will be able to plan it nicely such that your completion date of the sale is before that of the completion date of your purchase. And by doing that, your cash can come in and pay, and you don't have to go through bridging loan. So bridging loan is always the last resort that people may not know about, but it's a very important alternative, especially if you're new to buy new launches. You really have to take note of this, because if any point of time a timeline got error, you are in deep trouble, and it's something that you have to take note. And one last thing to take note about this, okay, if you exercise later, this whole completion date will push back. Okay, instead of usually 8 weeks, as I mentioned, 12 to 15 weeks. I have done cases up to 17 weeks before, although on the URA website it's written as 12 to 15 weeks. Yeah, but one thing to take note is that your LO, letter, your loan, LO, which is a letter of offer, which is a loan. Okay, take note, it must be processed before the exercise date of your purchase. Okay, take note, the bank loan must be approved before the exercise date of your purchase. So by looking into this is something that we have a more overarching idea as buying a new launch. It's not as simple as it sounds at times, but it requires more intricate planning and understanding what are your pitfalls and loopholes if you do not have a proper timeline planning. Alright, so let's move on to the second little known fact. Okay, very technical, but I hope that you are still with me. Okay, second known fact is a progressive payment. Very important. So a lot of buyers always saying, when you buy a new launch, wow, I end up paying the full mortgage. Okay, but if people may not know, when you buy a new property, because the unit is not built yet, it's not fair for developer to tell you to pay for the entire unit as like a resale unit by paying the full mortgage. So this thing called progressive payment. So as the progress of the construction happens, the loan amount will start to increase bit by bit. Okay, so what does it mean? Okay, so this is a usual timeline as I mentioned just now. I'll skip past this because it's quite straightforward. And one thing to take note, okay, the loan to value ratio today in the market for banks is 75%, which means for a 1 million property, you can borrow 750k of loan to finance the property. Okay, and down payment is 25%. Okay, and why is it important? Okay, because take note, okay, when it comes to buying a new launch, okay, you don't have to pay out all the 25% cash and CPF right from the start. Okay, why? Because as I mentioned just now, 5% and 15%, okay, for the 8 weeks is for your down payment, which I mentioned just now. Okay, so when is the next 5% due? Okay, next 5% due is only when the foundation is complete. Okay, because the new launch is building. Okay, and foundation is complete, 10% of purchase price is due, of which 5% is split out into cash or CPF, which you have to pay. They're usually due 6 months to 1 year later. So that's why if you're paying by cash in general, you can actually wait until 1 year later to save up more cash to pay. Okay, but you're paying using CPF and cash, then things get a little complicated, which I'll share with you this pitfall that people may not know about when buying a new launch. Okay, and take note, out of this 10%, another 5% will be under loan. Okay, so this will be dispersed as progressive payment. Okay, so later on, 70%, everything will be loan. So that's how it works for a progressive payment. Okay, and timeline wise, I'll run through later on how the timeline works and how much the progressive payment is every single month. Okay, so one thing to take note, which this is a very common mistake made by, in fact, a lot of agents or even buyers who are buying themselves, is about this payment order. Okay, so for payment, you must always pay in cash, then CPF, then loan. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that when you buy a property, your cash must be fully cleared first. Okay, then you use your CPF, then you use your loan to down pay. You cannot have cash, then pay by CPF, then pay by cash again. You must clear all your cash before by paying your CPF. Okay, so how to explain this? It's a little complicated, so bear with me. We will have to look into an example. Okay, so for example, you're buying a 1 million new launch. Okay, $1 million new launch. So for 20% down payment, as I mentioned just now, which is due for the first 8 weeks, that's $200,000. Then you have the buyer stamp duty, which is a 4% $50,004, but rounding up 40,000. Okay, for buyer stamp duty, we can pay in CPF. Take note. Okay, unlike resale you pay in cash, then reimburse in CPF. For this buyer stamp duty for new launch, you can pay in CPF. Okay, then after that, okay, 6 months to 1 year later, that's when the 5% down payment is due. Okay, so some people will say, hey, I need 290k. Today, I only have 240k of cash and cash only. Okay, let me run through cash. Can I wait for 1 year to save up 50k? The answer is yes, you can. Okay, only if you're paying in cash. Okay, in cash for all your down payment. Okay, so some people, they pay 240k first. I say 1 year later, I can save 50k. I can, but usually we try not to recommend that because we want to make sure that people are not over leveraging. Okay, but one thing to note is that, okay, if CPF is involved, things are a little different. Okay, why so? Okay, so to explain this, let me run through a very common mistake that people make when it comes to buying a new launch, where they think that they can save up money. Okay, so similar scenario. Okay, for example, you have a normal person over here. Okay, usually an employee who are having CPF. They have 140k of CPF. Okay, and 100k of cash. Okay, so in total 240k. Okay, but as mentioned just now, you need 290k for this entire purchase. So unlike the case of cash, where people can save up 1 year and then down pay later for the 50k remaining, take note. Okay, when it comes to buying a new launch with CPF and cash, things are a little different. You have to clear out all your cash first, then CPF. So what does it mean? It means for the first 20% and the buyer stamp duty, okay, 240k, okay, you must use all in cash clear out. Then you can use your CPF. So in this scenario, you can see over here, because you're using 40k for a buyer stamp duty for CPF, okay, and the rest is in cash, your 5% remaining, okay, which is your CPF, this 90k will be earmarked by the government, by CPF. Okay, 90k. Okay, so unlike the previous scenario where you're paying all your down payment in cash, you cannot save up 50k anymore because this 40k, 50k, 90k in total will be earmarked. Means it will be taken off your CPF. And at the end of the day, you can only use $50,000 of a CPF because the 140k minus 90k is 50k. And this is the amount left to actually available for a 20% down payment. So in this kind of scenario, what will happen is, okay, you see, 50k can be used for your 20% down payment, which means the amount left you can use at the start. You need to prepare 150k of cash. Okay, 150k of cash. Okay, so your 100k of cash at the start cannot be used. Can be used, but it's not enough. Okay, so this is a lot of pitfall that people with CPF and cash tend to fall into, and they end up forfeiting a purchase because they realize they don't have money and they can borrow money from people, not enough, or they have to beg still borrow, which is something that we do not encourage also. So at the end of the day, unlike a case where you pay everything in cash and can wait for 1 year later to pay your 50k in cash, over here 5%, right now, if you have CPF and cash and you're using it, you cannot do this anymore. And this is a case where you have to just play safe. If you're using CPI and cash, it's always good to make sure you have the 25% down payment and your buyer's stamp duty, which total up to close to 29 to or 30% for some purchase. And this is something that we do recommend clients to have before they even buy into a new launch. Okay, so if you have this down payment, this 29% in total, you are safe to go. Okay, and you don't have to really worry about all these things about not having enough CPF and cash. Okay, so it's something to take note. Okay, so with this, okay, run through the progressive payment scheme. So as I mentioned just now, you're using a progressive payment, you don't need to pay the full mortgage, which can total up close to, I would say, 6,900 for 2.1 million property if you just buy as a resale, or even $7,000 plus. Okay, so because the unit is built in stages, okay, so you only pay incrementally in terms of loan every month when the unit is go through one stage. So for example, if foundation stage is done, okay, this a lot of people may know, the progressive payment per month is only $464 per month. It's not very expensive. Then when the framework is done, it went to 1,004. Then when the wall is 1,008, and slowly it will climb to when you collect key. So at key collection, people will, hey, I will end up paying the full mortgage. Not really, because at key collection, which is TOP, okay, your mortgage down to 5,600 thereabout. Okay, this is based on 3.38% interest rate. But there's this last stage called a CSC. Okay, Certificate of Statutory Completion, which is usually 1 year after your key collection. And that is when the mortgage will go full blown to close to 7,000. Okay, so between here and here, usually at TOP date, okay, your mortgage payment is not the full blown one. You will only see that 1 year later, which is 7K. Okay, so this allows a lot of new launch buyers, which only going to say that, hey, if I buy a new launch, not built yet, I don't have rental, then how? Take note, progressive payment allows the monthly mortgage to be incrementally increased rather than one shot paying a high mortgage amount. And at TOP date, that's when unit is rental. A lot of cases, you don't have to really hit the CSC kind of mortgage. You have to hit the TOP one to cover your costs, and 1 year later increase your rental. That's usually a key thing to take note. And fun fact, if you may not know, you can actually use CPF, okay, in your OA account to pay down your monthly mortgage. Okay, so fun fact, if you are earning 6K and above, every month you should get about $1,380 of CPF credit to OA. You can actually use that amount to actually pay every month. Okay, along with any OA account amount that is your CPF right now. Okay, so this will give you your 75% loan to value based on that. Okay, but take note, if you are borrowing not 75%, you're borrowing 50%, you're not using too much loan, take note, the first 5 phases, okay, since it's not paid in a mortgage, it's paid in cash, okay, or CPF. So all these things must fulfill. Okay, whereas cash, CPF, then loan. So if you're using your cash or CPF pay here, when the foundation is due, instead of splitting into 5% down payment and 5% split in loan, it's all fully paid in cash, 210, followed by framework, 210K, then wharf, 105, ceiling 105K. So this is something you must take note, okay, before your loan kickstart much later. So for some individuals who don't borrow a loan, congratulations for you, especially today with a slightly high interest rate environment. Your loan, if you're buying a new launch in the market today, will only be due close to 1.5 years later, 2 years later, in fact, for some, only when your doors and windows are done. That is usually closer to your TOP date. Okay, TOP is temporary occupation permit, which in other words, when you collect your keys. Okay, and later on, because you're borrowing less, of course, your mortgage payment per month will be lower, 4,600 a month. All right, so there's some things to take note, and you can use CPF to pay down every single month. So next up, there's something that we want to share with you, this magic calculator, where we have a tabulated an Excel sheet, which you can use for considering to calculate your mortgage payment per month. So based on this new launch payment, this stage 5, okay, this stage 5, if you were to key in the price of property, the loan amount, and the annual interest rate, you can calculate at any point in time what exactly is the interest payment per month. So this is usually accessible most by agents, but for now, we really want to benefit as many clients as possible. So we're releasing to people who are keen to find out what exactly is the exact mortgage you're paying per month. Okay, and at stage 5, if you start later on, means you didn't enter at the start of new launch, you're buying something that is already in midst of building, the mortgage payment per month will be different as compared to if you're paying right from the start. Okay, and at a different stage, for example, at stage 2, okay, when coming in, when it's completion on brick wall, you can see the mortgage payment is $700. But you come in later on, you're close to $1,500. So it really depends on the stage. And with this calculator, you can calculate as much as possible and even break down what exactly is the interest have accumulated for your case. And from there, you can actually calculate your returns in terms of your property investments. Okay, and with the various interest rate, which you have more complex calculator for that. So with this, if you are keen to find out more, to stay to the end of this video, and if you answer the question, send to our number, you can be able to get this calculator. Alright, last fun fact is a balloting process, because it gets a little messy on the day itself. So it's something we like to give you some heads up. So for balloting process is usually, there are different kinds, but I'll share with you something that's more current status by this year in 2023. Okay, so on the day of balloting, some key things to take note is that you should actually start preparing your unit one night before when you go there balloting. There are some ways, very interesting ways, which you have to prep in advance. You can't just go down there and try to figure out. You'll be very, very messy. You may end up choosing the wrong unit with something that we do not advocate for. You may end up being too emotional. So you must have a certain base price you have in your mind. So we enter into this corridor. What will happen? Okay, imagine you will end up seeing a case where they ask for a registration number. Okay, and what happened is that there'll be different, okay, the night before usually, okay, you will already have your ballot number, means you know what is the position. So for example, if there are 1,400 people, okay, that is balloting for this, the night before, you should already have your ballot number position. If you are maybe top 150, okay, you're top 150 person who will enter and select your units. So it will be launched in batches. So for example, number 1 to number 100 will be the first slot, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Number 101 to number 300 is the second slot, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So you have to go to your schedule and go down so that at a point of time where you have to go and ballot. Okay, this is the usual balloting process. So for example, once you reach your venue, this is something they would like to see. You will end up seeing your reference number. You'll walk into this area, okay, where you have your coffee, but usually people are so nervous they don't have time for coffee. They will just ask, okay, usually for 5 units or 10 units. So depending on the mood of the person over there, if they are lucky, you can give you 10 units with all the prices. Okay, there are some cases come early, they won't give you prices. They only sometimes even give you the price 10 minutes when the door open. So it's very crunch time. We have to prepare the day before. And one thing to note, when you walk around here, what happened is that you will end up choosing a unit to see what's the first choice. And it's very nerve-wracking because along the way, okay, when you queue up over here to your booth where you have to go and select your unit, units will be taken up. So usually, most of the people over here, agents over here who are in charge of the project will tell you to choose at least 10 units. So by the time you reach the end, there are cases where you will end up being able to select unit. Okay, and one thing is when you enter into the last part, okay, where they'll ask you, what is the unit they're looking for? Okay, at any point in time, on the big screen in front, you will start seeing units being taken up. So at the end, if you have selected unit, you will enter into this thing called the selection room, okay, and you select unit. If the units are available. But if the unit is not available, or you suddenly think that, hey, I can't find a unit, people end up going to a thinking box. Okay, a thinking box. And they will stay there and think. But the downside of that is people behind you will start to catch up and go into the room to do their better thing. And that is when, and this happens, the problem is that you end up missing your unit that you even want in the first place. Okay, so try not to go into a thinking box. But if you think in thinking box, or you want to walk away from this, which some of our clients have done before, went to the room even before the room. I said you don't have to come down already, or you don't have to even go and select because the price is wrong, and walk away together happily. I mean, it's something that we always advocate. It's better to buy the right purchase, right, as compared to buying the emotion purchase and buying at the wrong price. So when that happens, you enter into the room. Once you select the unit, voila, you got your unit and you can actually leave. Okay, so processing paper usually will be done at another location. Okay, for Pronex, for example, they actually done it at level 10, okay, or level 18, depending on location, where you do a paperwork. And from there on, all these are quite straightforward. And that's when you venture into the first timeline. Okay, so fun fact, okay, this is just a very brief process. So you can expect what to have, which a lot of people don't know. In fact, they don't know about this because they're just waiting and just figuring how things work. But if you go through this normal process, it should be done this way. Okay, and one last thing to take note is at this point in time, you should not be emotional. You need to be logical, have a clear mind, have a baseline, a base price that you want to enter, so that when you go in, you won't end up choosing emotionally. Where clients will reach the end of it and we tell them don't buy, they cry, but we have to tell them to go because the price is wrong. So there's something that's very important, especially for investment. Okay, so with this, we come to the end of this video. It's very long, but we hope to be as detailed as possible so that we can give you an overarching idea of the checklist and some of the pitfalls you have to take note when it comes to buying a new launch. Okay, so with this, okay, let's ask the question, okay, before we end this video. So the question we have for this video is, what is the payment sequence of your new launch purchase in terms of your cash, loan, and CPF? So which one should come first? Okay, so do write your answer and send to our number, which we'll review right over here. Okay, so once again, the question is, okay, what is the payment sequence, okay, of your CPF, cash, and loan? Okay, so that you can actually purchase a unit for a new launch. Okay, not easy question. It's in the middle of this video, so do go and take a look. Okay, so once again, once you have the answer, do send your answer in this particular number right below in the QR code, which will release to you. Okay, and we will be sending you our cheat sheet, okay, which is our progressive payment calculator, very specialized for you. And if you'd like to find out more how to use it, do approach any of our agents, and we're more than happy to share with you how you can utilize this to the maximum benefit. Okay, so with this, we come to the end of this video. If you'd like to find out more about updated YouTube channels, updates, news dash, or your home tour videos, do click on this QR code below. Okay, we release right here to join our Telegram group so they'll be able to give you the most latest update. Okay, so with this, we come to the end of this video. I hope that you have a greater insight about some of the intricacy of new launch purchase rather than blindly going in to just select a unit. My name is Christian. See you next time. Bye.